Good evening YouTube, my name is Yusuf and you are watching my news channel. Today I will be making a small video about weather. There is actually much to discuss, but I will keep it as brief as possible. First, let's take a look at the polar vortex. And I will put the 10 millibar overlay and switch to the wind currents. Because April has been a month of wild swings in temperature, especially in Europe. I live in Belgium and temperatures have been unseasonably cold, very cold throughout April. And part of this can be explained by looking at the polar vortex. So what's happening at the 10 millibar range of the atmosphere? So normally you would have a circular shape. The polar vortex is a circle basically of fast moving winds, and it acts actually as a lid of the cold of the Arctic. Let's take a look actually at the southern hemisphere, because here the polar vortex is actually moving as it is supposed to be. So this is how it is supposed to be. The polar vortex spins very fast over the polar region, over Antarctica, and in doing so it actually keeps the jet stream confined to a certain region in a circular motion, and it prevents the cold from exiting the polar region. If you look at the temperature, let's take a look at the surface temperature. We can actually see that this is the case, especially in the southern hemisphere. Okay, partly because it is surrounded by oceans, but mainly because the polar vortex is very vigorous over Antarctica and not erratic, most of all. If you look at the northern hemisphere, this is an entirely different story. If I put the 10 millibar overlay with the wind currents, let me just put the wind, yes, where is it? Yep, there it is. So here we see a different story. In fact, I see two clusters like things, and it's so distorted that you can't really say where the polar vortex is. I mean, is this the polar vortex? Or is it this? Because it is not connected. There is an opening over here. So the polar vortex is non-existent, so to speak, over Europe. I'm inclined to believe that it was basically this area, but as you can see, it is basically splitting in two, and definitely not where it's supposed to be. I mean, if we look at this, this is almost over the Okhotsk Sea or region or something like that. Not into the Arctic. And over here, this cluster actually hovers around Svalbard and northern Greenland. So definitely not where these two cores actually of the polar vortex are located. This creates a distortion in the jet stream, and if we put the overlay, we can see, for example, here the jet stream going from almost northern Africa straight to the Arctic region. And this is mainly because the jet stream has a tendency to follow the polar vortex. I mean, look, for example, here. If we look at this, let me just zoom that in. We can see it is very elongated. It also stretches almost, it stretches basically to the mid-latitudes. It goes further southwards, and this is not good. This slows the jet stream and creates an increase in amplitude, so it gets bigger and slower, and this creates, of course, extreme weather. But this will become clearly when I put the maps of climate reanalyzer. But basically this is what's happening, and this is what creates the cold weather over Europe as we are speaking, but also over the United States. I mean, look at this, for example. This part of the jet stream stretches all the way to the Arctic, but then dips almost to California. So if we have to put the distance that it actually travels, this is way too elongated. This is not supposed to be like this. It is supposed to be a small wavy pattern in a circular motion around the Arctic. This is absolutely not the case this time, and I will show this later on. Let's take a look at other factors. For example, the Arctic oscillation. Consequently, because of this erratic behavior of the polar vortex, we can see that the Arctic oscillation is becoming again neutral or almost a little bit negative. I think this is evidently a consequence of that, because if we look at the cross-section of the atmosphere, there is no reason for that. You can see that most of it shows negative values, and this would indicate a positive Arctic oscillation. But as you can see, in April it starts to degrade, and this is when the polar vortex started to be in the wrong location, and I have shown this previously in a few previous videos. If you look at the temperature, actually we see no warming event, so this is not attributed to a sudden stratospheric warming or anything like in the months of December and January, when occasionally the polar vortex can split in two or show erratic positions because of the sudden stratospheric warming. And in fact, if we look at the temperature in January, there was actually a sudden stratospheric warming briefly, but then everything normalized in the atmosphere. So this is not due to stratospheric warming. This is something really odd. So how does this translate in reality? Well, extremes, of course. But let's take first a look at the jet stream again, because here it is actually more clearly visible what is happening. For example, here we see that elongated wavy pattern, and as I mentioned it, the jet stream travels from almost Russia to California, all the way from the Arctic. Then it goes parts of Alaska. I mean, if I have to calculate the distance, this has to be at least 1,000 kilometers. This is not normal, way too elongated. And notice how it happens on both sides, here and here. And this is because the jet stream has now a tendency to follow these erratic positions of the polar vortex. For example, here we see again this typical pattern where the jet stream slows down, it becomes elongated, erratic. For example, here it starts here and goes way down to Africa. Literally, if you have the jet stream travels from above, this would be yes, almost Greenland. Wait, Alaska, and this is okay, what's the name again? Silly me. It slipped out of my mind. Yes, Canada. It's gonna be a lot of angry Canadians if they are watching my video. Sorry for that, not intentional. So all the way north of Canada until it actually reaches Africa. This is not normal. What also strikes me, and you can actually see this, is that the jet stream like splits in two. You can see a motion, and this is exactly what's happening. Cold air is literally moving from the Arctic to Europe because of this. And this is because it has a tendency to follow the polar vortex, and there is a core over here and there is another over there. So it's basically, it wants to split in two. We see this, and this is definitely not a good thing. These low pressures are supposed to be circling around the Arctic, not strolling from one part of the northern hemisphere all the way to the other, to the mid-latitudes, not like this. So if I move this a little further, and what's happening over here? Oh yes, once again we see this. I mean, look at this, from the Gulf of Mexico straight almost to the Arctic in northern Canada, and then again way to Africa. This will obviously create extreme temperature differences, but also extreme weather, of course, because we are talking about cold Arctic air meeting all the way down warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, this is not good. And this is actually dangerous if it persists. As to the reason why this is happening, that's anyone's guess. If I put back the polar vortex, again, this is not because of a sudden stratospheric warming. So this is not a normal situation. Apparently, something is causing this. Is it the ice pack over the Arctic, which is becoming so thin that the polar vortex is breaking up and slowing down? This is possible, but I don't believe so. I think this is really Earth's magnetic field that's causing this. But who knows? Maybe it is because of because this is cause and effect. Which one is causing the other? I mean, this is debatable, and I'm not going to do it now because I wanted to keep this video as short as possible. So there you have it. And if we go to the anomalies, of course, this translates in cold anomalies. You will also see, when you look at predictions, you will definitely see cold anomalies all the way over the United States. If I put this, you can actually almost see the airflow. I mean, the warm air comes into the Arctic because of all these low pressure systems that, instead of hovering around it, go straight to it. And the elongated jet stream brings the cold air in two places. Here there is like a conduit of cold air going to Europe, and over here to the United States. Consequently, warm air is being sucked all the way almost from Africa to northern parts, all the way almost to the Arctic. And this is why you see all these warm anomalies, if you look. And these cold temperatures, they subsist, they stay. Will we go to a normalized situation? I doubt it. I mean, look at this. This is almost 20 degrees above normal. I doubt it if the polar vortex stays like this. It's not only in the wrong position, but it stretches all the way almost. I mean, look at this. This is the polar vortex going all the way to Africa when it is supposed to hover over the Arctic. Okay, this is a bad situation. I will keep monitoring this, but there you have it. If you're asking yourself, like me, why is it so cold in Europe, or if you live in the United States, what's causing all this crazy weather? There you have it. Before I end the video, and by the way, if you haven't subscribed, don't forget to subscribe, and also hit the like button. So basically, let me just go to a YouTube page. It's that little red square where it says subscribe. If you don't do that, you will actually miss any future video that I make. You won't get a notification. And actually, it's better to click when you do it on let me just go. Yes, I have to sign in, but I'm not going to do this. To that little notification icon to actually make sure that you get it, because YouTube sometimes forgets in some channels, whether it's deliberate or not, to actually give you the said notification. Okay, so don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button if you actually enjoyed the video. Why not? One last item, and this is actually also a strange event. I already mentioned that there was something strange going on in the Arctic, and it actually showed in the sea salinity map and in the Arctic sea ice thickness map. But now I actually see it also developing in the sea surface temperature. This is basically temperature underneath the ice pack, and we can already see. Let me zoom that in because now you don't see it clearly. Okay, where's the zoom button? Oh yes, I have to change the position of my beautiful face. There it is. Let me zoom that even further because, yes, this way you can see it. This basically means that something under the ice is warming a circular region. And this got me puzzled because we can actually already see that the ice is melting. And once this happened, and it actually melted the ice until it became open water, a circle of open water in the middle of the Arctic, where the air temperature is like minus 15 or minus 20 degrees Celsius. So this is mind-boggling as to why this is happening. Many people back then have postulated that this might be caused by an underwater volcano. But I'm not convinced, and I will tell why. Because those underwater volcanoes are located very deeply into the ocean. I mean, this part of the Arctic is very deep. We are talking about more than 1,000 meters of depth. So I honestly doubt that warm water would somehow position itself. And take a look. When we look at the sea salinity map, it's actually a beautiful circle, and in the middle there is a dot. So basically this is something under the ice which creates this particular melt in the ice, and it is fresher than the surrounding area. As you can see, it is actually dark. So this got me puzzled. Fresh water on the Arctic and warm fresh water. I don't know. This is not normal. Maybe an underwater current, but it would be one current and very localized to this particular region. And why would this happen? So for now, let's just assume it's an underwater volcano, even if I'm not convinced because of the lack of logical explanation. There is, however, the more esoteric explanation, but let's just leave that aside from now. Okay, this is it, people. I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, subscribe to my channel if you want to see any future videos I make, and most of all, oh yes, and don't forget the like button, and I guess we see each other next time. Take care, everyone. Bye bye. And sorry for the lengthy video, but I thought this was necessary to cover this subject.